Hello class, my name is Anthony Lamb, and today I'm going to talk to you about the subject of school uniforms. Picture, if you will, your child comes home from school and possibly acting different or being more concerned with the way he or she looks, or even crying because they were ridiculed about the way they were dressed when they went to school today. If statements like this emotionally affect you, then maybe it's time the federal government mandates school uniforms in all public schools. Allow me to start with a brief background of the subject of school uniforms. Believe it or not, a president really drummed up a lot of attention about school uniforms. In his inaugural speech in 1996, President Clinton mentioned the benefits of school uniforms. The whole nation heard it, so you could understand the buzz that was created. So the Department of Education, in consult with the Department of Justice, and under the direction of President Clinton, they developed the manual of school uniforms and distributed to 1,600 public school districts nationwide. So there goes the big buzz about school uniforms in the 90s. The current usage, according to the National Center for Education Statistics, more than 14% of all public schools have have a uniform policy, and the remainder of those have a dress code. The top 10 cities with the most students wearing school uniforms are Los Angeles, New York, Houston, Philadelphia, Dallas, DC, Detroit, New Orleans, Atlanta, and Jacksonville, Florida. Those are just the top 10 cities in the nation. Now that I've talked about the background and some current usages, let's talk about some of the advantages or pros, so to speak, to school uniforms. Let's start with some social pros or advantages. Some people believe that school uniforms provides a more conducive learning environment because the children or the students aren't worried about what they look like or somebody ridiculing them because of what they look like. So that's the first advantage. Another one that I wanted to bring up, per Dr. John German, principal at South Shore Middle School in Seattle, Washington, related, once school uniforms were mandatory in his school, truancies and tardiness decreased by 98%. So that shows me the kids wanted to come to school more, and they weren't worried about what might happen to them. And let's talk about an advantage safety-wise. School uniforms would create a safer campus because outsiders could be easily identified on school grounds. Plus, it also eliminates possible assaults students may suffer because a bigger kid wants their shoes or a piece of jewelry or something like that they may be wearing. According to the U.S. Department of Education data software used by most middle schools in the nation, when school uniforms were mandatory in Ruffner Middle School in Norfolk, Virginia, fighting decreased by 38% and vandalism decreased by 69%. Those are substantial numbers. Now that I've talked about some advantages or pros to school uniforms, allow me to talk about some disadvantages or some cons. Socially, some people believe that making children wear a uniform detracts from their ability to transition from childhood to adulthood. Some people believe that it prevents them from being their own thinking person or their own, able to make their own choices. But I feel we as parents can alleviate that problem. Legally, students and parents argue that uniforms violate their freedom of expression under the First Amendment. Most cases where parents levied against school uniforms were covered by the Supreme Court case, Tinker versus Des Moines Community School in 1969. The court said that a student's freedom of expression in the school should be protected. However, more recently, the uniform issue has come up, and however, with an increase in school violence and gang-related activities in the schools, the Supreme Court has been pushing the decision back onto local school boards to determine whether they want to enact the uniform policy or not. So I've talked about the background, some current usages, some pros, some cons, and as you can see, school uniforms could provide a safer and socially acceptable environment for our children to learn and become productive adults in. If you feel the same way, I do, feel free to contact your state representatives and express your concerns. A list of your state representatives can be found on the website www.congress.org under a congressional directory. I thank you for your time and consideration on this subject.